Can I see it? The recipe? Oh, if this something. All right. Okay. Yeah. Jillian, do we have Christy on?
I think so. I put her on.
Yeah, I'm on. I can hear you.
Hey, Christy.
Hello.
Right, you get back and get seated, and then we'll get going. It's adding to section 7 on that. So later down that point as an action. Where are you saying?
To be.
I think that, so do you want to do it there, or do you want to do it with? That's actually,
It's
oh, that's, okay, you're right, that's the attachment. So you have something, statement also? Is that right, Andrew? As it relates to principles?
Yes.
Okay. Alrighty, the time is 6:03. Let's go ahead and call this regular business meeting to order. If you would join me, actually, let's do a roll call real quick first. Christy?
Here.
Heidi?
Here.
Ricardo?
Here.
Bill?
Here.
Crystal? Richard?
Here.
And Chair's here. We have a quorum, so if you guys are joining me in the flag salute, I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Today is Indigenous Peoples Day. I have a statement here to read on Indigenous Peoples Land Acknowledgement. What is a land acknowledgement? A land acknowledgement is a formal statement that recognizes and respects Indigenous peoples as traditional stewards of the land and the enduring relationship that exists between Indigenous peoples and their traditional territories. Why do we recognize the land? To recognize the land is an expression of gratitude and appreciation to those who lived in the territory we reside on, and a way of honoring the Indigenous people who have been living and working on the land from time immemorial. It is also important to understand the long-standing history that has brought us to reside on the land and to seek and understand our place within that history. Land acknowledgements do not exist in the past tense or historical context. It is also worth noting that acknowledging the land is Indigenous protocol. We are grateful for the opportunity to acknowledge the land of the North Marine School District as part of the historical lands of the Kalapuya tribe and connected with the tribes of the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde. Moving along, we will go ahead and look at the agenda and approve the agenda. I have one addition. No, I don't. We're actually committed. So it is, I would entertain a motion to accept as presented.
I'll submit a proposal, accept the agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion and second, any discussion? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. Chrissy?
Aye.
Heidi,
Aye.
Ricardo,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Richard.
Aye.
Chair votes for. Our agenda is set as presented. We did not have any public comments submitted in writing. So we will dispense with doing public comments tonight.
Oh, do we have a sign-up sheet?
Normally the protocols is to have that
No,
submitted in
sign-up.
writing. Do we have anybody who signed up? Okay.
So I actually signed up and was told that I needed to make a complaint, but I don't have a complaint against an employee. I have a complaint against the lack of policy.
Well, as that process, my understanding of the situation, as that moves through the process, complaint process, this, my understanding of it is that it's complaint at this point. I appreciate public comments, but I would like it to work through that before we move to a public comment. This isn't the place for complaint driven items, so at this point, we probably will not be accepting that.
Even if they're policy related.
As of tonight, yes.
Okay. Thank you for your time then.
Moving on to board communication, would ask you to look at all those updates, but we also have under 2A or 2B, we have several items to deal with there, so I'll let you take that over, Heidi.
Okay, yeah. So we have a resolution, was an attachment, and I'll read it out loud, and then we'll entertain a motion to accept this resolution. Whereas the North Marion School District Board of Directors recognizes the vital and essential contribution that our staff make for students in our community on a daily basis, and whereas staff members have been asked to go above and beyond their typical duties in order to observe students and others during this difficult time with staffing shortages, COVID-19 responses, and student needs. Whereas we, as members of the North Marion School Board of Directors, wish to extend our utmost appreciation for the work that these staff members are doing to make education in school meaningful and engaging, and to create a sense of care and connection for each individual student. Now therefore be resolved, the North Marion School District Board of Directors recognizes and appreciates the outstanding service of all district staff in light of these unprecedented challenges. Be it further resolved that the North Marion Board of Directors encourages all members of our community to join with it in personally expressing appreciation to our staff for their dedication and devotion to their work. The resolution acknowledged October 11, 2021.
I'll make a motion to the board accept the resolution as presented. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on said resolution? Here again, we'll move to a vote. Christie,
Aye.
Heidi,
Aye.
Ricardo,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Richard.
Aye.
Chair votes for. I'd like to thank Heidi for taking the lead on this and bringing this resolution forward, and express our gratitude to all the staff of the district for dealing with unprecedented times, unprecedented measures, mandates, and still operating under grace. So we really do appreciate it from the board, and can't convey that enough to all of our staff. So. And then you have
Yes.
a statement you'd like to present.
Yes, I'd like to also, on behalf of the board and the cabinet, and which includes Sherry, Bill, Rhodes, Patrick, and myself, acknowledge the work of the principals as being a critical component to operations, to climate and culture in the buildings, to supporting staff and the variety of needs that they have. Provide the flexibility needed to be able to operate when we have shortages, to be kind and compassionate and helpful to the staff as they struggle with the stresses that this environment is placing on teachers every day. Their availability for help when everyone else needs it, whether it be at 9 o'clock at night or at 6 in the morning, they're there. Sometimes I receive emails when they need help solving a problem at Sunday afternoon or Sunday evening, because they work some of the hardest working people that we have. And they do that because they care very deeply about the teachers and the staff and the community and the parents and the students. And I think that they deserve their own shout out. So I wanted to make sure that we brought that out for everyone to hear, that principals and building leaders and team leaders, we appreciate you. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thanks for presenting that. Moving along to section 3, our consent agenda. I would entertain a motion on those items.
Move that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. Christie,
Aye.
Heidi,
Aye.
Ricardo,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Richard.
Aye.
Chair votes for. Motion carries. And moving on to section 4, superintendent's report.
Yes, I just very quickly wanted to give a state of the district report relative to where we are with the Oregon Health Authority requirements and vaccinations. And I will give you the results by school. Primary school, all but one teacher is vaccinated and all but 3 classified staff. Intermediate school, all teachers are vaccinated, 3 classified staff are not vaccinated. The middle school, all but one teacher are vaccinated and all but 3 classified staff. At the high school, all but one teacher, 2 classified staff and 4 coaches are not vaccinated. So that in total for all employees gives us a 98% vaccination rate. At the building level, it's a 99% vaccination rate. So we have the ability to ensure that our staff are in the best possible position to be able to help maintain protocols and have done their part and they're meeting all of the protocols. As far as exceptions, we have 15 exceptions that we have provided. That is 100% of all requested exceptions have been agreed upon, and we are meeting with the people that have the exceptions to make sure they understand the protocols they must follow. All that goes along with that exception. So that's in process now. We are not losing any staff. We are 100% of the people that are currently here. And that's it for tonight.
Good news, thank you.
That is great news. Okay, moving on to school operations report. I guess Patrick is up for study report.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for your service. Once a year across the state, all the special education departments turn in results of their restraint seclusions. Importantly, came a law a bunch of years ago to report there's no regulation. So now every school district reports them every year. So I like to keep a distance in time, look at where we were 7 or 8 years ago with 28 kids getting restrained. Last year, obviously, it was a strange year. We had 1 young man get restrained twice. That was all we had. Our goal is to never have any of them. We have a standard training protocol. Cheryl Dyer does a lot of our training, and we get some training through the WSD, required treatment for the self-contained teachers in the district and their staff. We have to maintain certification every year for that. Any questions or thoughts? Okay.
Anybody have questions?
It's our turn to get it.
Thanks, Patrick.
I forgot to add one thing to my report, and I'd like to do it because.
Sure, go ahead.
As far as the state of the district, I wanted to report on homecoming. So I asked Eileen and Rita to come and speak on behalf of the ASB leaders and talk about homecoming. So would you mind
Yeah.
telling
Go
us how it went? And I believe that all of your homecoming with the dance coming up, but
Yes.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, so thank you guys. Thank you much for being here. So my name is Amy Guzman. I don't know all of you guys, I know some of you guys. Amy Guzman, I'm ASB president.
And I'm Yadira Romero Navarro. I am the ASB vice president.
So we're gonna start off with like a few things that besides homecoming that we've been, obviously it's been still kind of a tough year. I'm really grateful to be back with my peers and my teachers, you know. I struggled a lot during hybrid, so I'm really glad to be back with everyone, and it's definitely helped me improve more as a student. So something that we had done this year, the beginning was actually our club fair. So we had NECHA, ASB, NHS, and just multiple clubs downstairs in the Husky Den and out in the courtyard showing the different clubs that North Marion has to offer. Because I don't know if you guys know this, I know I didn't, but we have more than 13 clubs at North Marion, some that I didn't even know we had, and I'm in 5 of them. So it was really interesting getting to learn some of the other clubs that we have, and hopefully finding students to join a club that they can enjoy, feel safe in, and feel included in the student body. So that was a really successful event, and it's the first time we've ever done that. And I think it was really good for the freshmen, you know, because it's the first time being in high school, and I remember being a freshman and wanting to join clubs, you know, to make more friends, get more experience. So it was a really awesome event that we were able to have. And another event that we had was our League Crew leaders that we'll have either.
So on that same day that we had the club fair, we also had Link Crew, which we had our ASB leaders go in and kind of give a tour of this brand new high school building to our new freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors, as well as our community. They were more than welcome to come on in, and us students gave them a tour of this brand new high school building.
Something else that we did was our welcome back decorations. It was something really fun that we get to do with the student body, you know, to welcome everyone back. And like Adira was saying, not a lot of people have been able to see the new building, and you know, why not celebrate it with the decorations? So that was something fun that we did. And then we also, for homecoming, unfortunately, we weren't able to have our dance last month, but I don't think you can't. I think you can still have a homecoming week without a dance. So we actually had a spirit week. That weekend we did Twin Tuesday, Country versus Country Club, Jersey Day. We did a luau, and it was really fun. You know, people were still participating, people were still really interested, and I love seeing my peers still want to participate. You know, so that was one fun thing that we did, and we also did hallway decorations again. Seniors did Under the Sea, and well, the theme was just like kind of like Under the Sea for luau, and we had volcanoes, jungle, and resort. Resort was one of the themes that we did as well. So it was just really fun that everyone was also participating in hallway decorations. And then we had our core as well, and we presented that at the football game, and it was really fun being able to crown the queen, and then you know, everyone had a really fun time with that.
And then this week we are celebrating, you know, the cancers by having a lavender week. Each day throughout this week will be represented by a certain type of cancer. Today, Monday, is white for lung cancer. Tomorrow will be skin cancer, and we'll be dressing up black. Wednesday, we'll be bringing awareness to colon cancer by wearing dark blue. Thursday, we'll be bringing awareness, by wearing lavender, and then we'll finish off the week with breast cancer by wearing pink at the football game.
If you can't tell, we're wearing our ribbons today. I made these, and I started selling them today. We also got some stickers made, and just to bring awareness, because obviously breast cancer isn't the only cancer that affects people in our community, you know. So why not, you know, show all of that? And that's what lavender is. That's the color that represents all cancer. So today, so far, we've raised over $100 from just selling stickers and ribbons to the student body and staff. And that's just the first day, you know. So I hope that this entire week we'll be able to raise more money for cancer. And then something else that's coming up at the end of the week is our fall ball. You guys haven't seen the posters outside. We're having our fall ball this Saturday. I'm really excited to finally have a dance, and have something fun with my peers. And we're really grateful for everything that you guys have done for your guys' help. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Are you doing the enrollment or something?
Linda.
Okay, so with that, it looks like we're on to section 6, and I will go ahead and turn it over to Linda.
Thank you. Hard act to follow, huh? I just wanted to, all of these spreadsheets are in the packet, so I'm not going to bring them all up, but I did want to show that I have my final numbers for the 2021 school year. The audit is complete. It's not printed yet, so we will present in November. The ending fund balance was about 85,000 more than I expected or budgeted, which is good. I always try to be within $100,000, so I hit the mark this year, which I like to do. I also have spreadsheets out for this year for the 21-22 school year, but it's just the beginning, and it's not perfect by any means, but it gives you an idea of where we are. We just ran the first payroll, and those numbers have to be massaged a little. We still have, as you saw by the consent agenda, HR personnel stuff. We have people coming and going still, so it hasn't settled down enough to really get the perfect picture of what's going to happen with our biggest expenses, which are salaries and benefits. If you reviewed them and have any questions, please let me know. I think the next thing I have is the official enrollment, and I will bring that up. It's a big sheet. I don't know if you guys can see it. I'll try to make it just a little bit bigger. Our enrollment is going down more. We had hoped that we would bring some of our students back that left due to COVID last year, and that doesn't appear to be the case if you look at the yellow here. 10-1 is our official enrollment number. So 10-1 of 20, we had 1,764 students, and 10-1 of 21, 1,696. That'll fluctuate within 5 over the next week or so, but that's about where we're at. Our highest enrollment year was 2015, where we had 1,992 students in October, and so we're down almost 300 from that. We are going to have to be careful of our funding and what we're doing with our money, that's for sure. The one thing that we have to be aware of is if all districts are experiencing declining enrollment and charter schools aren't experiencing increased enrollment, then our funding per student could go up or will go up. But we don't know that. The state has asked that any of us that have a bigger fluctuation than we expected for enrollment to redo our numbers with them. We do estimates every December for the following year. So they've asked that we redo those. And until everyone does that and they close it off again, we don't know if the per student amount will go up or down for us. After we know that, we'll know a little bit more. But as you can see, with a drop of 68 students from last year and funding at $9,200 a student, that's a really big drop for North Marion. That's over $500,000. So we'll watch it. We'll watch it closely, and we'll see how it plays out, and I'll report whenever I know more. Any questions?
Linda, do you have any light on the first grade number for this year? Why it's 15 below average, more than, or is there something first grade?
I don't know if Allison's in the room. I can't see the room, so I do not know. My personal opinion would be that young parents with young students are still afraid of COVID, and maybe they don't want theirs exposed. I don't know.
K and 2 are, along the line.
Mhm. Well, and you can see in green are my building totals. So you can see those just going down, down, down. The only one that's holding pretty close to steady is the high school, but even they are down this year from the prior year.
Any other questions for Linda? Go ahead, Richard.
Yeah, I was just wondering if we know where these students are going. Are they staying home? Are they leaving the district? Are they?
I think
Well-
Diane has more information on that if she would like to share anything. Are you on the agenda tonight, Diane? I'm not sure.
I'm not on the agenda tonight, but I can share just kind of a little more like I shared last meeting, Richard, and that is I track the transfers that are done through our transfer process. And that gives me more of an idea of who's actually coming in and who's going out and where. As far as the online, I've been building or gathering data from all of our buildings in our homeschool folks in from the Willamette ESD. But again, you don't get to know the why sometimes. So, and actually that's part of the criteria when we have a form that we have them fill out. We're not really allowed to even ask them why they're leaving. So sometimes they'll write on there though, and Ginger can attest to this, is a lot of it is childcare because parents do have to work. And if they work in Canby, they need their child to go to school in Canby. So those are a lot of them at the younger ages. As far as out, I agree with Linda. There's a lot of them that are out because they're going to online because they're not comfortable sending their kid back to the classroom. Does that help a little?
When you say online, they're in our online or somebody else's online?
Well, we had a report of our VOP online, and I can't remember the exact number. Sherry and Cheryl Dyer reported. But that's our online. For the other online, to come up with a total number is a little difficult because they can go online and in 6 days they can come back. So it'd be like almost tracking that daily. We get monthly reports now, and it pretty much has just stayed the same. So the same kids that are online are the same.
I guess I meant that question in the flip way around. Our online kids are in these numbers.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I meant. Right. Okay.
Our online kids are in these numbers.
For people requesting to be released from our district to attend school in another district, is that we are surrounded by districts that have dual language programs, Spanish immersion programs. We do not offer one. So when they make that request, there's no way to deny it because it's an education program that fits the family's need that we do not yet offer. I know we are addressing that, and Irma is put together, but it'll take a few years for capacity to launch that.
I think that's sort of an example of, understanding a little bit more about the why could help us, respond in a way that better serves the needs of
Yes.
students in the community here.
Any other questions from the board? Thanks, Diane. Thanks, Linda. Much appreciate you sharing that information with us. Alrighty, moving along to section 7. Looks like we have a presentation from Sherry. So
There's actually 2, but there's something in the middle, so I don't know if you want me to do both phones.
do you want us to deal with the approval and then you go ahead and go?
Would that work for you?
Sure, that works for you. So let's reorder that. So we have an out-of-state field trip request from FFA. I have the paperwork, I think, here. Anyway, for all the board members that are new, when the field trip takes them out of state, it requires a board vote to approve that action. So if you guys all have the paperwork in front of you, I would entertain a motion to approve that field trip as it was presented to us.
Should it include the count?
Seven.
Seven, there it is, I see it.
Looks like the date of the activity is 10/24. And they will be returning on, I'm assuming that's 10/31.
Seven.
I'll move that we approve the request for state travel. Requested.
I'll second it.
Have a motion in a second.
Oh, I didn't hear that, sorry, Carter.
Oh, sorry. So, but the second was from who? Ricardo, okay. Just to clarify, Diane, so we have a motion and a second, any discussion? Hearing none, we'll move
I
to.
did have one question.
Sure, go ahead.
I'm just interested in understanding more about sort of what's the sort of what safety provisions are to be made, just recognizing that there probably is some increased kind of health risk associated with interstate travel, so. I'd just be interested in understanding kind of what the district is doing to address that.
Well, we've been pressed upon them, they need to follow the protocols and perhaps even tighter rather than, more relaxed. So they'll be required to wear masks, they will be required to maintain social distancing, they'll have to meet all the protocols associated with travel. And we're trying to maintain the opportunity for them to engage in an activity that's very important, and at the same time mitigate the risk by being extra stringent about following protocols. So they know that's the expectation, and we're quite confident in the leadership of that organization that it's going to happen.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. Chrissy?
Aye.
Aye.
Ricardo?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Richard?
Aye.
Chair votes for. Motion carries. And good luck to those students at National Convention. It's a big deal. All right, sorry, I didn't mean to
No,
put that in front of you, but then you can go interrupted for both of your sections, so.
so the first of the reports is the annual notification of our compliance with Division 22 standards. And just as it's noted on this very first slide, we are talking today about last year's Division 22 standards. And I'm not going to go through the statewide, but just know that we're looking in a summative way on our compliance for the previous year on things that really matter in the area of education. So there's usually some changes. And this slide just reviews some of the changes. One of the biggest changes is the timeline that we have by which we report to the board. This report to the board used to come later in the fall. And now we must report to the board by November the 1st, and also have our assurance form posted to the website by that same date. And so this is far earlier than we have done it generally in the past. So, and the other piece, this is a state template, as you can see, and we are required to use this exact template every district across the state. So, it was a new rule for last year, 2021 only, and that is in regard to our compliance with following the Ready School Safe Learners guidance, which I can report that this district followed to a T. And we're very proud of what we were able to accomplish last year, even though we know that last year didn't represent the best for the students in terms of being on site. So new rules. You could read that. I don't really need to go through all of these again. This process has to happen by November the 1st. I could check off one thing on the list of compliance with Patrick MacArthur's report tonight on restraint and seclusion. I was going to ask for that report, and then I saw it on the board agenda, so that was really helpful. Cheryl Dyer presented the suicide prevention plan earlier this year. We were in compliance last year. And then the Every Student Belongs, we're in compliance with that. So some of the new regulations. Okay, thanks, Jillian. We can go. this is, I kind of said this, yeah. 2 areas that we were not in compliance last year, and it's hard to be out of compliance in any area. But in consultation with the State Division 22 office last week, I learned that we are among most of the districts in the state in these areas. So the first area is with teacher and administrator evaluations. And the second is in a new requirement that wanted us to complete an independent adoption of any online curriculum that we use. Had a very good conversation about that, and I'll talk a little bit more detail, a couple of slides. So, with the licensed evaluations, we are required to submit corrective action for any area for which we're out of compliance. And our corrective action began right away. So we did an internal audit of the number of evaluations each administrator has on their plate, and we could see that there's some adjustments that will need to be made in order for everybody to have the opportunity to complete all those evaluations that are on their caseload, basically. So based on that audit, we're making some revisions. And then it's a constant support and retraining for teacher and administrator evaluation, both on the teacher end and on the administrator end, to make sure that we're aligned across the district with that process. I'm reporting in front of you and our superintendent that we were out of compliance there, and that we will progress monitor. This plan was written before new guidance came out last Friday. So what I'd like to talk about right now is the conversation I had with the State Division 22 over this, and with the idea that the state just came out with new guidance for this year, which is the second presentation on educator effectiveness. They realized how difficult it was during the pandemic to meet this standard, Division 22 standard. And so the fact that they came out with their own new guidance, they meaning the state, speaks to the state's understanding of the complexity of the pandemic on evaluations. Okay. And then the independent adoption of instructional materials. We were planning for full-on in-person instruction this year. And as the summer grew into late August, we knew we had a need to offer an online program again. We chose the Pearson Connexus program primarily because we have a relationship with Pearson already, but also because COSA had endorsed it as their business partner. And when, based on that endorsement, we went ahead and had to get something up and running. There was no time for an independent adoption at that point in time. And in my conversation with the state last week, they completely recognized that. They said most districts were in the same situation, and there was an offer that as the year progresses, that there would likely be more state involvement with the formal adoption and recommendation for online curriculum programs. And Pearson would certainly be in the mix for that. So I wrote the corrective action that says, if this is still a we were also addressing the temporary need this year. If as a district, we feel that we want to or need to continue to offer the virtual online program for our students, then we would have to go through that independent adoption process, but we would have until next September to do that. And so again, there would be support from the state probably in the spring for that process. And that is certainly amenable to the state. So as we look ahead for 21-22, we haven't been increasing the requirements for physical education primarily at the middle school level over time. So I'm just giving you a preview of what the new requirement will be beginning next year. The middle school will move to 225 required minutes per week. And middle school administrators know that and are planning for that. So that's one big change I can report right now. And who knows what other changes, because there's lots of changes all the time. So we'll just see how this year unfolds. Any questions with that?
Go ahead, Bill.
Independent adoption process for the online programs, is that something that's been around? We understand that. Is that something fresh out of ODE that we? have to
That's
figure
fresh.
out?
For the online, it's
Yeah.
fresh. We do, as you know, the curriculum adoption process all the time.
Right,
And
beyond
so-
this online one.
This was kind of new, and there was debate whether it was supposed to happen last year, this year. And so it, in my opinion, wasn't that clear to us. And this state has taken some ownership.
So they're gonna do technology assistance.
I don't know what they're gonna do. I'm not gonna speak to what they're gonna do, but
They're gonna help.
I can't speak to the fact that they understand the issue and they're in a supportive mood to help us.
Should we get a lot about that?
Not yet.
Okay.
No, and we have a very good working relationship with the Division 22 office. I'd like to maintain that. And they're really receptive to the input, especially of a smaller district like us. Right now, we're implementing the social studies adoption from last spring, which is labor intensive, and we are just begin our ELA adoption. And we're also doing a work language adoption. So, you know, we have a limited number of people to do that work.
Go ahead, Richard.
Question, but was it just the, sort of just a quick glance of the, sort of the Oregon, rules around independent adoption? And I'm just curious, like, was it the parent and citizen engagement that was sort of missing with?
Was kind of following a whole process for an independent adoption that they developed.
Okay.
You know, which includes, you know, a statement to the community that we're doing this, you know, putting a team together and looking at we don't have anything from the state that are recommended materials. The only thing we have is the endorsement from COSA about any. And so there's some pieces that are missing to support a district in doing that work. And then you're right, it's the community involvement is an important process of any kind of an adoption.
Okay, and so part of the challenge here was just recognizing that process would apply also to this digital platform. Is that fair?
But the timing of it.
Okay.
We thought it had to happen this year, but it should have happened last year, evidently.
So can you speak a little bit to the scope? Are we talking programs that are standalone online programs, or are we talking programs that are used in supplement to in-person?
We're only
learning?
talking about the Pearson Connexus
Okay.
online program, not the digital supplements to our regular
To our
curriculum.
regular
It's
curriculum,
really
okay.
that is the full program for a virtual online program
Okay.
for the kids. And we are not using our teachers this year. It's Pearson teachers.
Yeah.
Who are teaching those courses. And so, you know, there's lots of programs out there. And none of them would ever be perfect, but they do present a good option for some of our families. And we have some of our students who be mildly successful at accelerating their learning through this opportunity. So if this becomes something that is no longer temporary, it would make sense
Mhm.
to do a formal adoption.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially this is a long-term component to learning here at the district.
Correct.
Yeah, that would be wise. So,
Mhm.
and getting this particular piece into compliance, you're saying that next year we should be in full compliance with these
Yes.
standards. Okay.
Well, yeah, we're gonna talk about educator effectiveness and evaluations next, but yes.
Sure. Okay.
That when I wrote the plan, that was what I was thinking we'd be in full compliance, and now we have something new to discuss.
I have a
And
question before you move on. Yeah, I actually have two questions. The first one, the timeline you said, should we need to adopt an online program should start in the spring. Do we have like a target date where we need to sort of make a decision so that we're not trying to catch up over the summer months?
very good. Sorry, Christy. That's a very good. And the way the conversation ended with the state was more information would be coming forth through their office in support of the process. And that for the time being, just know that the deadline would be in September and wait for some more guidance. And that they would take the comments that I made to them to their team because they asked me very clearly to write specifically in the information I submit to them, some of the details around this situation.
Yeah.
For districts in completing the work. And again, it's because we're not the only one.
Okay, and then my second question was just the increased PE requirements. Are we gonna need to look at additional staffing for that, or is that within the scope of what we have, or that's still to be determined?
It's still to be finally determined. We've been in conversation with middle school administrators. They know that this is coming and rolling out for next year. And so they have it in their planning right now. And I don't think it's going to be an issue for the middle school at this point in time.
Okay, thanks.
No problem.
Thanks, Christy. So we need to deal with these as two separate, because we need to accept these, correct?
This is a notification to you, the Division 22 of where we are. So maybe an acknowledgement that you have
I've
received.
received it.
Diane, I don't know if that's right or wrong.
Typically in the past, we have had a motion that you have acknowledged that you have received the Division 22 report. So it's just a motion.
Perfect.
So I would entertain a motion. Let's deal with that. I'll entertain a motion to deal with the presentation on Division 22.
Make a motion to acknowledge the Division 22 Assurance Compliance Report as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. Christy?
Aye.
Aye.
Ricardo?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Richard?
Aye.
Chair votes for. And thank you for the acknowledgement of that, so.
I forgot one thing I wanted to say. There were some questions that came in later today regarding Division 22. And it was more about the current year. So I just wanted to acknowledge that some questions came in that are not part of this report because it's reporting about last year. But if there were any questions regarding Division 22 standards for this current year, we'd be happy to present a different report at another time based on those questions.
Okay.
Yeah, just a quick question this year. Is this the year ethnic studies becomes Division 22 tech or next year?
It's the ethnic studies.
Yeah.
The full optional requirements don't have to be implemented until 2026. Are you talking about those standards?
Or maybe it was the one that was passed in 2017. So that would be was it the Native American or?
The tribal history, that's implemented this year,
2017.
yes.
So that's this current year.
Mhm.
Okay, and then the ethnic studies bill that was just passed is
Yeah.
2025, 26. Yeah, thank you.
Mhm. And that's off my memory right now.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, so.
All
But
right.
I'm
So
happy
go,
to get back and report on that too.
No.
so go ahead and continue with your presentation then. Thank you.
So I'm always interested when I get something from the state guidance, and I actually think it came in my inbox and Ginger was forwarding it to me at the same time. So this is new guidance regarding educator effectiveness, and educator effectiveness is really the title of the state framework for supervision and evaluation for all licensed staff across the state. And North Marion has its own framework based on that larger state educator effectiveness framework. And it is really the details of how and when we evaluate our licensed staff. And so part of that evaluation process is to set student learning growth goals and a professional goal. And every licensed person has to do that each year. And so if you recall, in the spring of 1920, the state that was when we first went to distance learning for all. The state suspended the completion of all evaluations that year, except for probationary staff. And so the new guidance that came out as kind of a reflection of that for this current school year. But it started just with guidance on student learning growth goals. And so you can read this for yourself, but what they're saying is, because we don't have really good, reliable summative data for student learning growth goals, that they are recommending that we write only one academic student learning growth goal, and that we look at other areas in which to write the other student growth goals. There's ways that our students are growing outside of academic ways. And so the guidance is really around how we would write a student learning growth goal that's not academic. And we'll actually be training our instructional leaders, looking at all the resources provided by the state tomorrow with our district leaders. The second piece is about that professional goal. And what they're recommending is that educators write a goal around well-being or health for their professional goal. Under that big umbrella of care and connection, we know how important it is for everyone to be taking care of themselves as they're trying to take care of the students and the families. So those are two kind of changes in just how we write our goals this year. So the next part, this is just the law that says we have to evaluate our licensed staff every year. And that we need to include, our association when we make any changes to our system of evaluating. But then they are, Jillian, the next slide if we could, really recommending us to bring to the board the possibility that we could have flexibility in the evaluation system this year. And that flexibility would be to kind of revert back to, we will only formally evaluate our probationary staff. Teachers are probationary for the first 3 years that they are in this district. And that if through conversations with the association and with board approval, we choose to accept this flexibility for evaluations, then there is the form, the notification and attestation form that we would complete and submit on behalf of the district. And then finally, I had the opportunity, this again just came out, to speak with our association leaders and let them know that this was a possibility. I wanted to move forward to bring it to the board. They agreed with it. And they made just a couple of recommendations that you can see there. And the recommendation is that if a teacher requests a formal evaluation this year, that we would provide it. Also, they thought it was important that if we had a teacher on a cycle of improvement, that we followed through with the components of that. And that this information would need to be discussed with the association and perhaps submitted with the MOU that's currently being negotiated in part. But they were fully supportive of bringing it to you this evening. So really the question at hand is whether or not our district would like to submit the form that would avail us of the flexibility to only evaluate our probationary licensed staff this year. It's for this year only. I don't know if you clicked on the link, but you can see what we're attesting to if you do in the form. And it's pretty clear.
Is that what you're recommending?
I'm in support of it. It's hard for me because I am a strong proponent of supporting our staff through the evaluation process. That's how we learn and grow as a district. And I want to do whatever moves the district forward. At the same time, there is much to do this year that takes our time and attention. And for our contract teachers, I have confidence and faith in their expertise. And so I can fully support it for this year only.
Are there any, yeah, go ahead, Bill.
So I'm back on page 2, which is new guidance, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm reading this and I kind of know that OHA, who's another hat that I wear, is really focusing in on social determinants of health for education, which includes staff and students.
Mm-hmm.
And there is, we're kind of saying, okay, we don't have real metrics on, growth goals, but we do have metrics on those kind of things. Would that be an example of like setting a goal that is not using the smarter balance assessment and things, or?
They provided a lot of resources that we're exploring right now for the different types of goals that could be written instead of an academic goal. And, part of our work is to take a look at those. The baseline metrics that are being promoted are really through the use of in-class surveys for your class, identifying a need, getting a baseline for that, and then through teacher strategies, working to address an identified need, and then reviewing that at the end to see the growth of the kids. So there are literally dozens and dozens of resources that the state put forward for consideration, and that's the work that we're going to begin tomorrow. If that will happen tomorrow no matter what, but if the board approves of the flexibility waiver, then we would begin having other conversations with the association based on what that looks like.
So those discussions are gonna go forward, so to speak. I just brought it because it says, well-being goals, right, for teachers and things, and I know that's a focus at the state level as well.
Right, and just a little bit more about that. We, during 1920, we have been focusing on well-being as a district through the purchase of materials called Onward, which are really social and emotional learning resource for our educators, and it's how to keep us vital. It's kind of like putting the mask on yourself before you put it on your child in the airplane. Like, we can only do our best work if we care for ourselves. And so we'll be revisiting some of that work. It's about resiliency for educators, and that's everyone. And that's a personal passion of mine. And I think we have to do our best to care for ourselves so we can care for others. And so that will be part of our training tomorrow as well. But the well-being. So we usually write professional goals about we're going to research this and report back on it, it's something more in the area of academia. Now more than ever, what we need is to take care of ourselves, and the teachers need to have that opportunity.
I know that KP and MOVA 360 are both ratcheting up big time their facilities and work on providing that for teachers or employees.
I mean, it's from the top down. I would say, I know our superintendent is stressed. I mean, it just, the situation and the ever-changing dynamics and having to be nimble and shift on the fly is, continues to be a challenge, especially when we don't have the resources, human resources we need to do it.
Go ahead, Richard.
Thank you. I just wanted to be clear on what the ask was
Sure.
tonight. So, I heard you mention a request for flexibility. So it sounds like one aspect of that is, the flexibility to only provide a full evaluation if a teacher requests one, or if the teacher's in a probationary period. Is part of that flexibility you're asking for also to, replace one of these goals with?
No, that is
emotional behavioral
guidance
goal?
that's in place already.
Okay.
That we can act upon. And I don't know if it would help, but you have the link there for the notification and attestation form. It tells you exactly what we are attesting to if we complete this one. Can you click on the link there?
I clicked on it and it pulled up a blank
Uh-oh.
form.
Well, this is
Oh,
blank, we
yeah,
haven't filled it in.
Fine.
Yeah. But it's the intent to apply for this
Okay.
flexibility, and then that we understand, and kind of our rationale, and that we understand that this will mean that we are only responsible to evaluate probationary teachers, that we understand that we're going to resume the full cycle of evaluations in the following year, 22, 23, those sorts of things, that this is specific to this year. So.
Understand, thank you.
No problem.
Probationary administrators are also included, they also must be evaluated.
Okay, great. And I guess one other question then on the goals themselves, is there going to be an effort to tie this emotional or behavioral health goal to student outcomes and try to be explicit about that, or is it just more kind of implied that if, you know, if the teachers are healthy, that they'll, you know, will achieve better?
Actually, the student learning growth goals are about the students and learning, okay? So those student learning growth goals that would be set that are not academic are about outcomes for students in terms of learning, based on whether their social emotional needs are, you know, addressed. And that they're growing in, you know, other ways other than academics, based on the experience that we've all been through with COVID. Yeah, those are great questions. The professional goal is more about the individual educator's well-being.
Christy, did you have questions or comments?
Yeah, I don't know if it's a question. I do kind of, I appreciate the presentation and all of the thoughts towards well-being. I'm a little, I guess I should say, sometimes I observe people's well-being best by observing them do their daily behaviors. And when I see, you know, somebody who's not doing well, their work often is not what I would expect or what I've seen in the past. And so I feel like we may lose some of that contact because of that. And I'm wondering, you know, I don't want to have an excessive workload for these type of scenarios, but I do think watching people in the way that you've seen them before do their position, sometimes you see it becomes really obvious of who's struggling and who's not. And so does that make sense what I'm saying? I'm wondering how that hole could be filled if we're not continuing to do what we would normally do in evaluations, you know?
So you're really speaking to the fact that we wouldn't formally evaluate our contract teachers this year.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know the evaluation process well enough to know if that would be something that you would observe. You know, if you were to do your regular evaluations, would that be a normal situation and you would be able to observe that somebody is struggling in their overall well-being because of their performance during an evaluation, or if that's not generally something that you would see. But you know, in other scenarios, if I were to do a performance evaluation on someone and they were not performing their job the way I expected, then that would be a key to me that something was off, right? So I don't know. Can you speak to that? Is there valid?
I can speak to a couple of things. So first of all, the evaluation process has several activities within the process. For our contract teachers, that we're on a 2-year cycle of formal summative evaluation. So there's a year which is formative, where we're still conducting classroom walkthroughs. Every year, teachers set goals and meet with their administrator for goal setting, and a mid-year check-in, and then a review of whether the teachers met the goals at the end of the year. And so that happens each year of the 2-year cycle. It's at the end of year 2, which is called the summative year, where they get the actual formal professional practices evaluation, which is summative over the 2-year period. And that's what we track, and that's actually what gets reported to the state each fall for the previous year. And so I actually think, Christy, that the state came out with this opportunity because of a concern that during a time when everyone's overwhelmed and maybe not be at their best, that they shouldn't have to worry about being evaluated when they're less than their best. That is what I believe has driven this decision by the state to create the opportunity. We're still going to observe teachers in classrooms, I believe. We're still going to support teachers. We're still going to meet with teachers. The underlying premise that our job as evaluators is to support teachers will never go away. We're going to support them each and every year, regardless of where they are in an evaluation cycle.
So you're saying that teachers will still get classroom visits, administrators will still be giving support and coaching, but not formal. So they won't be left alone. If we notice that they're struggling, we'll offer them help.
I'm saying that that would always be true. And I'm also saying that what if the board approves of this evening, then the next piece is to have a deeper conversation with the association members is required to determine all the pieces of what that's going to mean. It's still expected administrator in the classroom, but they're there to lend support and to actually celebrate some of the things that they're seeing in the classroom. So the idea that every time an administrator, I want to defunct this, the idea that when an administrator is in the classroom, it's to be looking for what's not there. More often it's there looking for what is there and how we can celebrate and support teachers in their work. But I would say that I'm quite sure there will be a sigh of relief for teachers if they know that they will not be formally evaluated on their professional practice this year, that we will pick up next year and resume where we left off.
So that's kind of my question. This just delays it a year. Everything will just be delayed for a year. So if they were to have a summative this year, it will be next year.
Yes.
But weren't there some evaluations that didn't happen last year also? So that's where I'm like really confused.
There were, and they just didn't happen last year. And so what this is saying is that we would still just have the flexibility to evaluate probationary teachers. So the two presentations tonight have a relationship, but they're separate. Only by virtue of our calendar are you getting them both in one night.
But the ones that didn't happen last year could potentially be pushed off for 2 years with this. Correct?
Unless we discuss with the association that the ones that weren't done last year would be moved forward to the summative next year. Those are all conversations that would be forthcoming if the decision is to go this way.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. That we need to work with the.
And then can I have one more follow-up question? That when you talk about classroom visits by administrators, that's not a formal process, right? That's.
Well, we call them walkthroughs. They've also been informal observations. And so it's a time for administrators to come in and see what's happening. And in a formal evaluation year, there could be a sit down. I want to talk about, this evaluation. For contract teachers, we no longer do the formal observation, which includes a pre-observation meeting. They turn in lesson plans. We go in and we're there for the entire period. And then we have a quick follow-up afterwards with what was seen. That has not been part of the contract teacher evaluation for a couple of years now. So it's more an opportunity for administrators to be in the classroom more often on a less formal basis once they're a contract teacher.
Okay, thank you.
So we need to.
Yeah, any more questions?
So you're asking
Go
for
ahead,
the board
Richard.
to approve, oh, go ahead, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, well, I guess I just have a question, I guess, of, what can be done, if anything, to just sort of avoid this setting precedent for future years or future, negotiations.
Which part, Richard?
The part about only formally evaluating probationary employees that, we've now 2 years running have avoided formal evaluations of contract employees. Does that start looking like standard sort of
Let
practice.
me go back just a little bit. I gave you the number that had not been evaluated. That's a small percentage of the number that were evaluated. So I have to report when we're out of compliance, but most formal summative evaluations last year occurred. Most of them did occur, just some did not. And so I'm gonna just refer back to this notification and attestation form. It says clearly on there, it is for the 21-22 school year only. And so the other piece is, I believe very strongly in teacher evaluation and making sure that it's a process that we do with our teachers on the regular cycle as outlined in our educator effectiveness framework.
Fair enough. And then so the attestation that, you know, this summative evaluations will resume for the 22-23 school year, you feel like that provides enough sort of clarity around the intent of this?
I
That
would
it's
think
limited
so.
to this.
Yes, I don't think the state would allow us to get away with anything else either.
This is an ODE form for a 1-year waiver. right?
Yes,
This is not
that's-
our choice, so.
Yes.
We can do this anytime we want. This is ODE saying that you get a 1-year waiver on
If you choose to
it. If
accept.
you choose to.
Mhm.
So the concept is for the board to approve you checking all 4 or 5 of these boxes, give you permission to check all 5 of these boxes and accept this offer from ODE. Is that what we're trying to do?
That is what we're trying to do, which in next steps would be to have more conversations with our association about what that would look
But
like.
you
So
just
we
need
have
for
to
this-
get our own plan in place.
You need the green light from us to move
Yeah,
forward in that
I
process.
need to bring this to the board and say, here's an opportunity for us in this district. Association leadership is in favor. I guess I, as the director of teaching and learning, would say I'm in favor for 1 year only, given the circumstances. And then based on that, I know Ginger's in favor, we've discussed it. Do you agree that this would be a step we could take in moving forward for this year only?
So I'd like to make a motion that the board accepts staff's recommendation to take ODE's 1-year waiver for assessment guidance and approval to fill out the form as required. Second.
Motion and a second, is there discussion?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I still have one more question. Should we accept this, then it still goes through negotiations to look what it actually will look like in our district. Is that correct? Or
From school to school and come to some agreements about what you can expect this year if you're a contract teacher. And one of those things is to clarify, yes, we're still required to set those 3 goals each year and to work with an administrator. Administrators have to do the same thing. We're still required to do that piece. And so there's other steps of the process that we just want to make sure we're all on the same page with how it will proceed this year for contract teachers. So there are no surprises.
and when you say school to school, you mean from building to building?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Is there more discussion on this motion? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. Christie?
Aye.
Heidi?
Aye.
Ricardo?
All right.
Bill?
Aye.
Richard?
Aye.
Chair votes for, motion carries. Hopefully that gives a little bit breathing room.
Yes, and
Yeah,
thank
so
you very
lots of
much.
things.
I also wanted to say thank you for the comments made earlier on behalf of the staff. I can tell you how hard everyone's working, and I know that means a lot to them to be acknowledged. And then finally, if there's a point in time where you want more information about our teacher evaluation system here in the district, just let me know, we can provide something.
Okay.
Because it is a little bit complicated. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on, section 7D regarding policies and first reading. You kind of want to leave that discussion?
Yeah, I'll do it really quickly. I'm gonna read the excerpt from OSBA. Although there have been no changes to law, a recent collaboration with ODE staff produced a review and recommended revisions to the model sample policy and administrative regulation on electronic communication systems. The requirement to have a policy for electronic communication systems depends on whether the district participates in the federal E-rate program and receives funds to cover items like computers and internet services. The AR is required to implement the policy and outline and enforce protection measures required of the same federal program. Most of the content in the model AR is highly recommended best practice to support the E-rate program and student safety. Consult with the district's technology staff for advice to select content on how best to reflect practice and ensure appropriate protection measures are described in the AR and implemented. What I'm suggesting that you do tonight is to read, this is a first read. I would like to work with Greg to make sure that the language that is in here actually aligns with his practice. His item of note was about the use of personal devices to do work. So he and I are actually working on that right now. We don't have that language recommended yet, but it'll look very much like what you see in front of you. Maybe a line or two that's different, but other than that, it's the same. And again, the emphasis is on aligning the policy to match the E-rate child protection requirements and systems protection requirements. I recommend that we bring this to the next meeting and adopt it at that time, or at least second read and see the adoption.
You also working with Greg to make sure we have the technology for
Yes.
all of this?
Yes.
As well as Greg. How much we need to do.
And if you have any questions about it, for Greg and I to explore, please send them my way.
You need a motion on first reading,
Yeah.
if everybody's okay with that, and doing some homework.
Yeah,
And wordsmithing.
yeah. I move that we accept, no, not accept, that's the word. Well,
That first reading.
adopt for first reading, IDGA, R, IDGA,
G1.
is it G1 or G1?
That's a G1.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. Christie,
Aye.
Heidi,
Aye.
Ricardo,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Richard.
Aye.
Chair votes for. So we will approve that, and that is approved as a first reading. A couple things before we move on. I'd just like to thank ASB for having representation tonight, providing. I would invite you to come back, and please engage further. There's lots of things going on, but I do appreciate the representation here and seeing kind of what happens firsthand. I know you guys have your hands full, but I
was gonna
appreciate that.
request that we actually put them on the agenda every month, if they would be willing to be part of the first part of our board meeting, so you don't have to stay for the whole time, unless you want to. But it would be nice to get a monthly update on everything that's happening in your lives in school, and what you're looking forward to, and things that you need.
I agree with you. I think it would be, I think also, it's good for us to get to know you guys a little bit more and let you guys know what's going on.
Yeah, so I appreciate it, and we will discuss a little bit, but I would be all in favor of hearing from you on a regular basis. So I just wanted to thank you and spending your Monday evening here.
Board retreat, for this coming Friday night and Saturday. I believe Saturday we're set from 9 to 3. And I'm not sure on the time on Friday where we've landed.
6.
6.
Christie asked that we start at 6 o'clock,
Okay,
not earlier.
so 6 p.m.
Thank you.
CAA Clubhouse.
Okay,
We'll send out, I'll work with Diane to send out the address.
perfect.
How to get
Do we need to be, is there a gate to get in?
There is I'll handle the gate.
Okay,
So-
cool. So
Great.
I think everybody heard that the strategic planning has been moved off a month, so that process really will start in earnest for a month from now, just to kind of keep everybody in the loop on that. Our next regular business meeting is November 8th. Are we gonna do away with the work session for
Yes,
this
no
month?
work session.
Okay, so that is a clarification for this month. There will not be another meeting this month. So our next meeting will actually be the 8th of November because the retreat is happening this weekend.
Correct.
And we'll have an opportunity to discuss a number of issues, so. And you did not Monday night free. With that, I'll gavel down. It is 7:21. I appreciate you guys coming. I appreciate audience members. So thank you for coming and we are adjourned.
Thanks. See you guys later this week.
Thank you, Christy. Should those things be on this?